March 27, 2001, Leonardo Samadi was born into an Afghan family in a small city on the east side of Afghanistan called Jalalabad. Leonardo grew up his entire life knowing only one thing: war. 6 months after he was born, NATO and Allied forces invaded Afghanistan in response to the 9/11 attacks. Shortly after the war in Afghanistan began, when Leonardo was less than a year old, a large airstrike hit a major oil plant in the city. His father, who was working at the oil plant, was among the 100 people who died in the airstrike. Leonardo's older brother, Piero, didn't take the death of his father lightly. Fueled by anger, Piero decided to join the Taliban to fight against the forces who had so unfairly destroyed his family. Fast forward 10 years later. Leonardo is now 11 years old. Since Piero left, Leonardo has had no contact with him and presume he is either dead or will never return home. Since then, Leonardo's mother has been working, leaving early in the morning and returning late at night, trying to support herself and her son. However, it hasn't been easy. She originally sent Leonardo to a care center while she worked, but it became too expensive. Leonardo attends the public school in the area, but teachers describe him as a troublemaker, distrusting, and struggles with the academics. However, with no adult to teach him as a child, the teachers are not surprised. After school each day, Leonardo and his friends can be found loitering around the neighborhood. Occasionally, Leonardo and his group of friends steal from local vendors or get into fights with other groups of children. Having grown up with this type of behavior his entire life, he sees nothing wrong with it. As the fighting nears Jalalabad and the airstrikes become more and more frequent, the local school shuts down for the safety of the children. Airstrikes become a daily occurrence, and city officials recommend that all citizens move to a refugee camp to the north. After 3 years of living in the refugee camp, they are allowed to return home to Jalalabad. The war is officially over, even though sporadic fighting is still happening throughout the region. When they return home, they find their home has been mostly destroyed, along with most of the possessions they left behind. For Leonardo, now 14 years old, it is time to find a job, but he has no idea what to do. Through a few connections, Leonardo finds a job at an oil refinery and is the youngest worker at the primarily adult plant. Most of the workers were already over 18 years old when the war began in 2001, and after a few months of working at the plant, his older co-workers note his lack of interaction with them and his lack of ability to improve his efficiency at work. Now supporting both himself and his mother, the two of them struggle to survive financially. And even though post-conflict recovery groups have offered to help with the situation, Leonardo has denied all help, accusing groups as trying to force him into a bad contract that would hurt him in the future. After a year of working over 11 hours a day, Leonardo is tired of his lifestyle and feels pushed to do something about it. In an attempt to help with his financial situation, he begins stealing money from the refinery, believing that he is doing nothing wrong. Soon, the refinery catches on and discovers that Leonardo has stolen over 6 months' worth of wages. Even though he doesn't believe he deserves a jail sentence, he is fired from his job, is forced to return everything he stole, and spends over a month in local prison. When he returns to the free world, he goes back to his mother, who has been living off the support of relatives, and unable to find a job in his community, he is unsure about his future and his direction in life. He decides to return to the school he left over 3 years earlier to try to fulfill the dream his father had for him to finish his education and maybe even go to college. Personally, he has always dreamed of becoming a lawyer, since as a child his father told him that is what made the most money. However, he is struggling in school. His math and reading levels are over 4 years below where he should have been, and he has forgotten almost all English he learned earlier in school. A few weeks after restarting his education, a Taliban representative, hoping to recruit people to join them, is rumored to be arriving the next day. With his aspirations of becoming a lawyer far out of reach, Leonardo considers joining the Taliban. However, realizing that it will only involve him in the conflict that got him in this situation in the first place, Leonardo decides against it. Years later, when Leonardo is a grown adult, he has finally adjusted to the moral and social standards of a society not affected by conflict. He moved from Afghanistan to the United Arab Emirates and works in an office. Even though he never grew to his full potential educationally, he lives a happy life, even bequeathing money to groups who work to improve education and poverty in post-conflict areas. He dreams to one day return to Jalalabad and see how the city is today and help in the improvement efforts.